This is the examination of the hidden human condition.
You're listening to the Hidden Killers Podcast.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski.
We are joined right now by Neama Rahmani, former federal prosecutor and attorney. We're talking about the case against Bryan Kohberger, the speedy trial. That's all out of the window. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see a speedy trial in this case. And this is interesting in that I think the appellate lawyers, the law and motion folks, are already involved in the case. When we've talked about the previous motions they filed to dismiss the indictment, they just filed another one. I haven't seen the memorandum in support of the motion. It was filed under seal, but I did see the notice of motion. So hopefully that'll be unsealed soon and we can take a look. But I mean, they're challenging everything from, the instructions given to the grand jurors to alleged exculpatory evidence that wasn't presented. I don't think the motion has any chance of success, but it's just one additional appellate issue that the state and federal appellate judges are going to have to look at. And then, with respect to the speedy trial, I mean, that was something that, from the jump, the initial arraignment, they waived that right. So there's no Kenneth Cheeseborough here. This is a case that's going to get pushed out for quite some time.
How does this benefit Kohberger and the defense by having the extra time? Obviously, it's more time to prepare for a trial and come up with a defense. But one could argue that, pushing this through a little bit faster at the same point could be a benefit. Pros and cons here. What are we looking at?
Well, it's tough. The speedy trial is the defendant's right. So if a defense lawyer gets up before the judge and says, Your Honor, I need more time to prepare for trial. They're trying to put my client to death. And the judge says, no, I'm going to push this case to trial on such and such date. And that's just another appellate issue, right?
Sure.
So these defense lawyers, and look, if you're the prosecution, I get it. You have victims, the families really want this case to move forward, but the defendant's in custody, right? So it's not like he's free and out and about, committing more crimes and that type of thing. So, to the extent that the defense needs it, it's a capital case, they're going to get it.
Without a doubt, the defense of Kohberger saying they have 24 issues that they're going to be raising when they go in this week to discuss and have the hearing with the judge. Some of those biased grand jurors, one of the arguments, evidence that was inadmissible, lack of evidence, prosecutorial misconduct, just a few of them. Do they have any legs to stand on with some of these? Could there be a dismissal? And if there was, what would the steps be after that? Should the judge find that?
Yeah, anything is possible, but I think it's highly unlikely that this indictment gets dismissed. Some of these arguments have no merit whatsoever. They're talking about reasonable doubt at the grand jury proceeding. Obviously, we all know it's probable cause. That's law school 101.
Yeah.
Inadmissible evidence. You can have all sorts of inadmissible evidence in a grand jury proceeding. Hearsay comes in all the time. So these are more trial arguments. But again, they're swinging for the fences and they're thinking, hey, maybe the Idaho Supreme Court, maybe some, federal district judge that's looking at this on habeas, 5 years from now is going to latch on to something because they want to save his life. So they're going to throw everything out there, really a kitchen sink approach, hoping something sticks.
And is that really where we're at right now? Because I believe there's a motion that's going to be raised here in this next week as well about trying to take death off the table that Ann Taylor is going to bring. Is that something that would be considered yet at this point, or is that too early to even begin arguing that?
Normally I would say no, but we saw it with Lori Vallow, right? The prosecution botched their discovery obligations, and all of a sudden, the judge took the death penalty off the table. So that was a win, even though she was convicted and got life. I mean, if you're defending a capital case, you're Ann Taylor, you're one of the other dozen death penalty qualified lawyers, at least first chair qualified in Idaho, you save Bryan Kohberger's life, and he spends the rest of his life in Idaho State Prison, Tony. That is a win in a case like this. You're not expecting him to get a walk.
Yeah, that seems to be possibly what they're working at this point. How, when we're talking here now, obviously speedy trial off the table, we're not going to see this happening October 2nd. How far out could this potentially go, or where do you see it going more so, in your opinion, in terms of this actually getting to court?
I think we're going to get a trial sometime in 2024. I think it's going to be impossible. Well, I mean, look, nothing's impossible. It's going to be difficult for the defense to get it pushed out past that. But especially a case like this, you're dealing with a lot of scientific evidence, right? We've talked about the DNA. We've talked about the cell site. video surveillance. I'm sure there's going to be experts that are breaking it down to the pixel. So, and then whenever you're doing the death penalty, right, it's not just the guilt phase. You have a potential penalty phase that happens right after. So you got to get your experts lined up for mitigation, talk about Kohberger's upbringing, his childhood, any sort of factor that might come in to spare his life. So there's a lot that the defense needs, and these aren't easy cases to defend, especially when there's a lot of publicity. So judge is going to give him a lot of leeway, but I think probably sometime in 2024.
You're consuming the Hidden Killers podcast.
Want more? Start binging on all of our true crime podcasts right now through Apple Podcasts and get an ad-free experience when you sign up to be a True Crime Today Premium Plus member exclusively on Apple Podcasts.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast dropping soon.
Press subscribe now.